Welcome to Exhausted Reviews. My name is EddieX, and this is my video series where I drive, experience, and review enthusiast cars. Before the M2, the M2 Competition, and M2 CS, we had this, the BMW 1M. Although technically the name is the 1 Series M Coupe, but that's way too many words, so we call it the 1M. They could not call this the BMW M1 because that name was applied to the mid-engine sports car from the late 70s. Now, the 1M is an interesting vehicle. It's almost like the forgotten M car because it didn't really follow the previous M car formula, and it's not exactly what we expect with modern-day M cars. And also in terms of rarity, it's actually really low production. They only built 6,331 worldwide. To put that into context, the next generation F87 M2, they built nearly 30,000 of those, so these are actually rather rare. And the reception at the time when it was new was also a little bit varied and interesting because it was sort of a parts-bin Frankenstein car where they took an engine from other non-M cars, the 135i and the Z4, and then they took pieces from the M3 and kind of combined it into this driver-focused little M car. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see how it's aged. What does it feel like? How does it compare to the next generation M2, the current modern-day M2, other M cars and performance cars? I am quite excited to try out the 1M today. The engine was a slightly controversial aspect of the 1M. It has a 3-liter turbocharged inline 6, the N54, which was shared with non-M cars like the 135i, the BMW Z4. Up to this point, typically, M cars had a dedicated bespoke, naturally aspirated high revving engine. For example, the E90 generation M3 of this era had a naturally aspirated V8. The previous E46 M3 had a naturally aspirated inline 6. Even the M5 of this generation had a naturally aspirated V10. But I think this is the first time a full-out M car had a boosted engine. And now, fast forward years later, all the M cars have turbocharged powertrains. Now, the N54 here made 335 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque. And by today's standards, that may not sound like a ton of power. I mean, the later M2 with the N55, then S55 made substantially more power. The modern-day S58 found in the latest M2 is nearing 500 horsepower. But during this time, with a curb weight of just around 3,300 pounds, 6-speed manual transmission only, pure rear-wheel drive, as a dedicated driver's car, this thing was plenty. 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, quarter mile in about 13 seconds. This thing had all the ingredients of being a proper driver's car. Let's talk about the design, which is another aspect of the 1M that I think can be somewhat polarizing. Personally, I prefer the looks of the M2. I just think it looks a little bit more sleek and sporty, whereas the 1M gives you more of a stubby and stout kind of compact feel to it. There are some pretty cool M-specific touches on it, though. So they widened the track front and rear, which leads to some really aggressively flared wheel arches. You also have the M-specific front fascia, which is functional for airflow cooling. You even have an air curtain, so along the side of the bumper, you can channel air through that around the wheels to deal with some of the turbulence from the wheels. There's an interesting mix of some MQs that we're used to seeing now and some ones that are missing. You don't have the power bulge on the hood, but you have little wing mirrors on either side, the M logo, 19-inch specific M wheels, no carbon fiber roof on this one. Again, much more simple, but around back you have the quad exhaust tips. And this was actually only available in 3 different paint colors, either white, black, or this Valencia orange, which I think is the excellent choice for the 1M. It's aging actually rather nicely. It's got a more simple look to it compared to the modern day M cars, which have even more aggressive vents and flares and all sorts of things. But I gotta say, I do really, really like the way the wheel arches flare out. It looks really squat and aggressive looking. right, let's do a bit of driving and start off by talking about the interior, which is simple. The 1M has a very simple interior, especially this one, because when it was new, there were two major packages. There was a convenience package and a premium package, and it included the navigation system, and this car was optioned without the navigation system. That was a deliberate choice to try to make the car not age as quickly, which is a thing, right? Older infotainment screens are definitely showing their age. Now, there are still little displays for like the radio and the temperature, which are going to be on the more simple side, but it was an interesting choice, and it definitely gives it a very simple look. We have so many buttons, so many physical buttons for your climate and all sorts of things, which is like a relief in today's day and age when everything is through the iDrive touchscreen or a touch-sensitive this or another screen there. So this is very analog and simple feeling. Now, as a 1M, they added a couple of M badges. You have one here on the steering wheel, but it's not as overwhelming as modern day M cars, which have like 45 M badges scattered all over the interior. You do have some nice suede covering various surfaces across the dash, the doors, so that's a nice touch there, and this is only available with a 6-speed manual transmission. I don't think BMW has changed their manual shift knob in a while. It's like the same general feel, which I think is fine because it's pretty nice. Now, it's really also cool being in here and feeling like I'm being transported back to the E90 generation M3, just this era of BMW interior. It brings back many fond memories. The steering wheel, kind of similar to the new M2, feels a little bit big for the size of vehicle. That's something I noticed because the car does feel rather small and compact. It's only available as a two-door. It does have back seats, but as an adult, I don't want to sit back there. Doesn't look very comfortable. But it's just very nice, simple interior, and without that screen, I think it's aging very nicely. It just shows that analog dials and gauges will never go out of style. That being said, I'm pretty sure there's probably aftermarket solutions to retrofit like a modern day CarPlay supported screen with this era, whether E90 M3s or these, but I mean, without it, it's totally fine, simple and clean. Now, let's talk a bit about the driving experience. This thing is compact and small. It absolutely feels it. 3,300 pound curb weight, pure rear wheel drive, limited slip differential. Suspension didn't require any sort of crazy adaptive this and adjustable that. It's also a bit of a relief to get in an M car, turn it on, and drive. I don't have 57 different damper settings and traction control and this and that to play around with my steering weight and my braking feel. The modern day ones can be a little overwhelming. Yeah, you can hot map them to M1, M2 button, but this one is just go, right? Now down low, there's actually not a ton of torque. Once you run up higher in the power band, it feels plenty quick. Oh, the traction light is flashing. Now, I have heard that these things can be a little bit twitchy and rowdy, so you have to be careful with them. It is a shortened wheelbase, and again, a bunch of different parts from various different M cars, or just cars in general from the BMW portfolio of this era. They pulled suspension components from the M3, a lot of aluminum bits, and then the engine. Now, it was so, there were so many complaints I think I remember when this came out. I was in high school. People were like, oh, it's not a true M car. Even though it has the M badge, it's not a true M car because of the engine. Well, it's still a BMW turbocharged inline 6, and it makes plenty of power and torque for a vehicle of this size, and I think this feels so good in this use case, in the mountains, on the canyons. Yeah, the modern day M2 is way more powerful, but it's also way bigger and heavier. And I really love the way the hood just kind of looks. It feels like it falls away. The short stubbiness of it makes it feel like I'm driving like a postage stamp, right? The visibility is fantastic. I know exactly where the front end is. And then my favorite part of how this thing drives, the steering. This has hydraulic steering. And that was the first thing I noticed. I pulled out of the neighborhood. First couple times I'm like, whoa, I don't feel cars like this anymore, right? The modern day electric power steering, some of them are getting pretty good, but a proper hydraulic rack on this thing is just so nice. It's so nice and it's so fun. We have almost a 50-50 weight distribution. It's very, very close to that. Limited slip differential. What else? Reasonable sized tires. This one's currently on Super Sports, Pilot Michelin Super Sports. I think it came on PS2s. I forget what the new OEM tire was, but they haven't changed on this car here. 245s up front, 265s out back. And shifter feel is something we should talk about because a lot of BMW manuals of this era, I remember not being the biggest fan of them. They're a little bit numb and rubbery, and this one kind of does fall into that camp. It's not the most slick feeling of all the manual shifters out there, but I mean, I got pretty comfortable in this thing pretty quickly. Yeah, see, that's plenty fast. The clutch is actually quite nice, not too heavy at all. Yeah, but the shifter feel is not the best. That I would say is a weak spot. I did see some people who have swapped in aftermarket solutions. You can change various aspects to fix that up a little bit. And I know people will do powertrain tune to wake up that turbo inline six a bit. This one does have an exhaust to wake it up slightly. But this is a fun little pocket rocket, and it definitely feels much more simple and analog. We're gonna take a quick moment to hop in the car with my friend Tanya, the owner of this BMW 1M, because you've had this since new, right?
I sure have.
So let's talk about what it's been like to own for so long. Like, what are your feelings about the 1M?
I mean, it's a pretty iconic car. You know, when they announced it, it was like, whoa, what is this thing? You know, and they're only gonna make a few, and I was very fortunate. We worked with an incredible dealer here locally that helped us get the 1M. And you know, it's just it's kind of a monster. You know, it's interesting because, you know, when I pulled out the driveway earlier, I was like, oh yeah, I forget how slow it is at low speed. But then when you get it on a road and you can really open it up, I mean, it's just an incredible car. And I mean, they'll never build anything like this again. Yeah.
I mean, the modern day M2 has grown in size and
yes.
cost and weight and complexity,
Absolutely.
right? This does seem still the more pure driver, is kind of the pure one and formula
yes.
of the era. Yeah. So the spec, you specifically didn't get navigation. I noticed that. What was the thought behind that?
You know, it was an interesting time, right? So technically this car is a 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I ordered it actually in late 2009 and got it in 2010.
Whoa, okay.
Because they announced it way ahead of building it. So I waited almost a year for it. And I just sort of felt like it was a really interesting time in car technology where you could just see that things like the nav and all of that were about to go through a lot of change. And I just felt like, I don't know, I don't want something that's going to date the car. Like, this car is going to be ideally a collector's car because they're allegedly making so few.
Yeah.
I'm not using it to do big, long road trips where I need it. So yeah, we didn't get any of the electronics. It doesn't actually even have power seats.
Yeah, it's got manual adjustable seats. So yeah, no convenience, no premium package.
No, we didn't get any of that. The only thing I got was heated seats.
Okay. Well, that's nice when it gets chillier in the fall and winter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It does get chilly here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you kind of went for the more timeless look, which, looking back, was a good call because these cars with that generation of nav, oof, they're looking real dated.
Yeah, I think it might have even still had. Remember when BMW
iDrive, the little rotary? Yep. Yeah, they ran that for quite a while. Yep, I'm pretty sure. Because this was the era of the E90, so it kind of borrowed some bits from the E90 M3, and the infotainments were all the same. Yeah. Is there anything you don't like about the car? I always love asking people, like, what do you hate about the car? If you had to nitpick or find something you want changed.
I wanted to have more low-end torque.
Oh, okay.
I wish it just had a little bit more pep in lower gears.
Okay.
And in lower speed corners.
Okay.
It's a monster when you wind it up.
Yeah.
But I just, like, you know, when you're in town or you're getting on the freeway, you're merging, like, I just wish it had that tiny little bit more get up and go. So, like, would you say, like, your other car, your daily, is a manual Mark 7 Golf R? Yep. That's a little more low end torque, like easier to drive around town? It is. Okay. Yep. What do you love about it? Your absolute favorite thing? I there's just something about the sound and the feeling of it. I can't really put my finger on it. It just feels like you're driving this like rad performance car.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's nothing like I can't really put words to it. It's just a feeling.
It's the feeling you get.
Yeah,
That's what I love about any enthusiast sports car, is that emotional connection. You have to have it.
Yeah.
And it often leads to not just necessarily the most rational choices with cars. Like, people love cars for various reasons, and it's not always just about specs and numbers and things like that.
Yeah.
So the feel. Still love it after all these years.
Still love it after all these years. It was also, now that I think of it, it was probably like the very first car that I spec'd myself and bought it. Like, I'd had new work cars before, but it was probably the first car that I really took the time to be like, no, this is exactly how I want it.
Yeah.
I'm going to order it and I'm going to wait for it, and yeah.
And you've had it for a very long time. That's a testament.
Yeah,
because
15
it's got
years.
60,000 miles on it now, almost?
52,000.
52,000 miles on it. You've kept it. And the values of these things, have you seen the market price on some of these? They haven't tanked.
No.
You could probably get what you paid for it out of it, maybe even a little bit more, ignoring inflation.
Yes.
So that's pretty special. That's rare.
It's very rare. Very rare.
Do you get to drive it much anymore? I know you're busy.
I'm busy.
Yes.
So I probably don't drive it as much as I should.
Yeah.
It was my daily driver for years. When I first bought it, this actually was my commute to work.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the 150 to Carpinteria was my commute. And so I drove it every day. As my daily driver until 2016. So 5 years it was my daily driver.
Okay.
And then that's when I got the Golf R, because I felt like it was time to not put so many miles on this one.
It's retirement now.
It's in retirement, exactly.
And now you're traveling the world nonstop, so you rarely get to drive this thing either.
I rarely get to drive, period. So,
yeah, that's true. You are, oh my gosh, I thought I traveled a lot. You're what? You're about to be in Europe and Asia for 2 months straight?
Correct.
You want to talk about what that's for?
Yeah. So I, after almost 30 years in the tech industry, I semi-retired from that in 2022, and I am now the proud co-owner of a small travel company called Ace Camps Travel. And we produce small cultural and creativity retreats, I would say primarily for women. We don't target exclusively at women, and we do have lots of amazing couples and that come on our trips. But yeah, we work with local artists. We work with world-renowned artists to put on trips all over the world. Yeah,
I remember one that really stood out to me because you shared the photos was the postcards with the stitching.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of really cool cultural things. Obviously, you go visit. What are some of the highlight places you've been for Ace Camps?
Yeah, I think first would probably be the very first Ace Camp I did. Before I started actually as a guest. My friend Angela owned this business for many years, and sadly we lost her to cancer in 2024. But my very first Ace Camps was to Laos.
Laos? Oh, whoa.
Laos, yeah.
Okay.
And I went in 2018 and really, frankly, didn't know a lot about Laos. I went because I was following a specific artist at the time. And, there's just something really magical about that part of the world. The people are lovely, their outlook on life, the Buddhist philosophy. There's just this peaceful kindness, in them, which is particularly amazing when you think also about how much Laos was impacted by the Vietnam War.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that was, my first. So that's probably always going to be a special one. We do a trip to Jaipur, India every year. Last year was my first year doing that trip with the group. And, I think a lot of people give India a bit of a bad rep. And I actually really quite fell in love with it.
Okay.
Again, the people are lovely, and the heritage of, in our case, we really focus a lot on block printing and carving the blocks. And you really just sort of see how a community, really embraces a craft. One person carves the block, one person prints, one person does the washing. It's really just interesting to see how it all exists in a community.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing about that Ace Camps travel. We've been friends for actually many, many years now, and seeing you take on that new challenge and literally travel the world is pretty cool. but at least when you come home, you have a 1M in the garage and you can still drive, and you've owned it since new. That's cool.
Yes.
Final question. What's ownership cost been like? Have there been any major issues, problems, wear items, consumables?
You know, not really. I mean, part of it is, you know, it was my daily driver for 5 years. In that period of time, I mean, aside from your usual like brakes and tires.
Yeah, consumables like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I don't remember which spec of tires BMW put on this car initially, but they were actually really loud.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so we changed those out probably sooner than we really needed to from a wear and tear point of view, just because we wanted a slightly quieter tire. But I would say, aside from brakes and tires, like, the car's been super duper reliable. We really haven't had, you know, a ton of things that we've needed to fix. And then, of course, like, it's a little bit of a, you know, babied garage car
garage
now.
queen sometimes.
Yes, because, you know, now it largely sits in the garage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been super, super reliable, and we really haven't had...
I think the one thing that Matt said was the charge pipe. The factory charge pipe was plastic and it cracked, so immediately lost boost. So you replaced with an aftermarket charge pipe. That's an upgrade there.
Yeah, that's right.
But otherwise, yeah, nothing huge, major. Honestly, it's one of the appeals of this, because the N54 is an engine found in other platforms too. So less of a specialized kind of thing, which is part of the parts bin special Frankenstein M car thing. But that's cool. All right. Anything else you want to add about what it's been like to own the 1M?
Well, it's fun now because our son's 21, and this was the car I drove him to school in every day. So it's a bit of a, I'd say, of all of the cars that we've had and we have now, there's a lot of special memories in this one, at least for me, with him growing up.
So Eric's gonna make it so you can never sell this car.
Exactly.
Make him buy it off of you. In terms of condition, how is this 15-year-old BMW holding up? Wear and tear? It's actually in great shape. I've got a little bit of like flaking off the steering wheel, but I think that's a common issue with BMW M cars or BMWs of this generation. But for a 15-year-old car, it's in great shape. It feels quite solid. The leather is holding up very nicely. Honestly, I was like pushing and pulling at various things, and then I noticed less like creaking and squeaking compared to some brand new luxury German cars that I spend time in. Let's talk about the price, the value. When these things were new, base price was like $47,000. You could tack on a couple of the options. This Valencia orange paint was an option, and you get to the low 50s. And I think there actually might have been a little bit of markup sometimes when this was brand new. But it's really, really interesting looking at prices now a decade plus later. They've held strong. Low mile ones actually go for a surprisingly high amount of money. This one here at 50,000 miles, I would hazard a guess the market could probably say $50,000 to $60,000 for something like this. Now, even lower miles, I've seen some go as high as like into the 80s. And if you compare that to the newer M2, or even an M2 competition, which has more modern tech, is newer, like, this is actually slightly more valuable. I think it's the rarity factor. That's the play right here. In terms of like dynamics, I love the steering on this thing. The new M2 I think would be faster, more capable. Creature comforts are much more plentiful. This one, because it was an option with some of the premium package and convenience package, we still have manual adjustable seats. They are heated, but less of the fancy bells and whistles. This doesn't even have the rear parking distance control, so you better learn to use your mirrors again and have good spatial awareness. But up in the mountains here, driving dynamics, it feels a little bit more lively, a little bit more raw. Twitchy, I haven't pushed it to the point where I would feel like I'm scared, because again, not my car, mountain road, do not want to go off the side, but I have seen the traction light flash a handful of times. It is definitely engaging, and you can't discount the rarity factor. I mean, there's 5 times as many regular M2s. You'll see regular M2 competitions, even M2 CSs, way more than you see these, I think, right? So why would you spend extra for one of these? Well, the collectability, you may really want the hydraulic steering feel. I do really, really like that. And this thing is fun. It's a lot of fun. I don't mind the powertrain at all. I think I actually would rather have one of these than Ooh, am I gonna say it? E92 M3 up in the mountains. The E92, the engine sounds fantastic, but this feels genuinely more compact and more nimble. Like the eagerness of which it wants to turn in a little bit. And then as you run it out, it's quick, it's fun. Looks, I still don't love it, right? So just for that reason alone, I may still end up going for like an M2 CS. But this thing is really, really cool. It got kind of caught in an awkward transition phase. It never got called the M1 because of the whole this mid-engine sports car heritage, right? So the 1M, that doesn't follow the pattern. And then it was the first time they went to forced induction for a proper M car, and it wasn't a bespoke, dedicated, special S whatever engine, right? You know, the new ones, S55, S58. But it's a Frankenstein car, part spin special technically, but it adds up to be more than the sum of its parts. That's a little bit cliched of a statement, but it feels cohesive. It feels like the M car stuff is in it, and it makes you want to go have fun and drive fast. Oh. Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot, actually. Yeah, I like that it's a level of power that I can run through a couple gears, have fun, enjoy the car, and not be doing obnoxious speeds. I like the feedback that it gives me. I like the compact feel. It's not crazy heavy. 3,300 pounds. A modern day M2, the G87, is edging close to 4,000 pounds. The G80 generation M3 and M4 feel like the 5 Series of this era, right? They're all getting bigger and bigger. The M2, I really like. The M2 CS is one of my favorite M cars of all time. I'd say top 3 favorite M car. M2 CS, M5 CS, and I really like the E39 M5. But this thing is kind of a blending of the various ingredients of the compact feel of the M2, but the more analog, nostalgic, simple, communicative era of the E90 M3s, the E39 M5, even the E60. It's that era. This is when this car came out, and I could feel that with this, I would want, probably if I bought one of these, I'd want to do a couple of mods. Maybe the suspension, it does have a bit more body roll than I'd like driving, compared to driving like really modern day performance cars. Change the shifter feel a little bit. You could probably swap out some things, a tune to wake it up a little bit, intake tune, exhaust, and then you have yourself a really fun, really unique and rare pocket rocket canyon carver. And just the rarity factor, it'd be cool to have something that most people do not have and honestly don't think of. I'll be honest, like the 1M is not a car that oftentimes pops in my head. I forget that this started kind of this compact M formula until I go visit my friends and I'm like, oh yeah, the 1M's in the garage. I want to take it for a spin. This is super cool. Comment below, what would you buy? Was the 1M one of your poster cars when you were in high school? I remember when this thing first came out, I'm like, ooh, interesting. Would you rather go for the M2? Are you still a purist and say, oh, it needs to have a naturally aspirated engine? I'm getting a E90 M3. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review of the BMW 1M, or the 1 Series M Coupe, 1 Series M Coupe, not the M1, the predecessor to the M2. Only manual, rear-wheel drive, turbocharged BMW inline 6. Sounds like a good M car formula to me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.